Just let your soul glow.
Welcome to the Soul Shift Sessions podcast, where we dive deep into transformative conversations that empower you to elevate your mindset, break through limitations, and create the life you truly desire.
Hosted by Coach Sapphire Star and Coach Kyle McLeod, this podcast is your go-to source for actionable insights, inspiring stories, and expert advice on personal growth, financial freedom, and living with purpose.
Each episode is designed to help you shift your mindset, overcome obstacles, and embrace a life of abundance and fulfillment. Whether you're looking to transform your relationship with money, enhance your well-being, or unlock your full potential, the Soul Shift Sessions will guide you on your journey.
Aeisha Reese is an actress, musician, inspirational speaker, patient advocate, and CEO of Miracle Work Ministries. She faced several health complications with Crohn's disease, which slowed down her performing arts career. After being in a coma for 2 months, her intestines were completely removed. In order to live, she had to receive a small bowel intestinal transplant. She learned that gratitude is the evidence of elevation. Each day, she is grateful for the gift of life. She is a walking miracle, an instrument of inspiration for those her community, and recognizes that trials give birth to amazing treasures.
Welcome to another episode of Soul Shift Sessions Cast, where we have deep, transformative conversations to help you transform your mind, to transform your life. I am Coach Sapphire Star, and with me today is my favorite co-host, transformational architect,
Coach Kyle McLeod.
and our special guest, Aeisha Reese. Yes. Hello. Hello.
Aisha, I don't even know if I'm worthy for this one. Because I know that all human beings have their fair share of trials and struggles. I know that. But the what you have been through, not everyone goes through that type of those type of trials and tribulation, and so if for you to use that as a platform to inspire and help people is nothing short of amazing. So if you could just give our audience a taste of what your story is, I just want to hear all the stuff that I haven't heard. So please just jump in there and share with us.
Absolutely. So it's, oh God, it's so massive and juicy. But I'll try to give you a popcorn test, which is, when you go to the movies and you go out and get some popcorn, you say, come back, what did I miss?
Yes.
And they give you,
Yes.
so I'll give you that.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm born and raised in Flint, Michigan. I went to school at Wayne State University. I received a BFA in acting there. And I also had the opportunity to study in Moscow. And when I moved to New York City, I had opportunities on Broadway, and I moved in 2014. And shortly after that, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And for those who may not know what Crohn's disease is, it's an inflammatory bowel disease, right? That affects the intestine. It's autoimmune, and your body is attacking the intestine because of inflammation. So I had never heard of this before, and I had never been diagnosed with this, right? So I was past due with this diagnosis. And so it was so extreme that my intestines were inflamed and near exploding, actually. And so I had to endure an emergency surgery and have a colostomy, and a colostomy bag is where there's an incision in the abdomen, and then there's a pouch over that, and there's a piece of the intestine that's hanging out, right? And I did a treatment called Remicade. I did that. It it tapered every week, every 2 weeks, and then eventually every 8 weeks, I did this ultravenous treatment to reduce the inflammation. And so I started to see results. I started to heal, and I had to pivot my way into my career, right? Rebuilding my contacts, reestablishing myself in the industry by the grace of God, of course. And when that happened, I started to notice swelling in my body in probably 2016. And then in 2017, I had to go into an induced coma as the result of blood clots traveling from the heart, the lung, and then to my intestines. And so when I was in this coma, they conducted several surgeries, and unfortunately, they lost the intestine. And so I found myself now in another situation and with a 15% chance of living, right? And it was by, once again, the grace of God that the colon surgeon I had at the time had friends at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City who specialized in a special transplant, intestinal transplant. And if I got well enough, I could be transferred there into their care, right? And so I did get well enough, despite the odds, despite what they felt, and I was transferred there. And that was where a brand new journey began. And they had to fix me up, patch me up. And that's when I was introduced to a process called short gut syndrome. And in short gut syndrome, some people, there's a huge community of this because this is people who experience malnourished conditions, meaning that you're not able to engulf anything through the mouth, right? And in my case, right, because there's no intestine, that means that how am I getting nutrients? So in short gut syndrome, what they do is they give you a central line, right? And there's also a drain called a G tube drain that's inserted in your abdomen, right? And the whole purpose of this, the central line, is you do a treatment called TPN, temporary parenteral nutrients. And so that is done, it varies 14 to 16 hours, 10 hours every night, every day. It's a process to receive hydration and nutrients, which you would get through your food, through your drinks, right? That's what happens ultravenously. And then the purpose of the G tube drain is that after the process of, the stomach, because the stomach, all the other organs, they're still functioning normally. It's just the intestine that's not there, and your organs don't know that. So it's still producing liver bile, it's still producing these gastric juices. So they have to be excreted somehow, and it's the drain. That's how they're released, right? And so for me, when I was transferred there, I pretty much endured that process until I received a right? So I received one transplant the same year that I went into the coma on my mother's birthday. Um, but unfortunately, I only had that for 2 weeks. So that's when I endured the process of short gut syndrome. They send you home, you do the TPN, right? Every day, you have the G tube drain. I didn't, no intestine means no food, means no eating. So I didn't eat for 2 years, right? I went through this process. Um, and even though it seems like, oh my God, you're not eating, you're not, oh my God.
You're like
It
saying what
was
I'm thinking, okay? Like you're saying the word, like you're saying it. So please continue.
I know. It's like, oh my God, oh, it sounds like,
Yeah.
but it was the very thing that I needed. It was the very thing that led me on the path of purpose. Because what I didn't realize was that I was being separated. And separation is different from isolation. Uh-huh. It's a difference between separation and isolation.
Mhm.
Sometimes separation is needed so that you can be directed. And that's what was happening. I was being separated, you know, I was being directed onto what my true calling was at that time. And so, even though all these things were happening, I was fortunate to develop wait, I want to go into the hospitals and I want to pray for people. It just started off simple like that. And so my friends in the community in the church that I went to, we went to the hospitals and we just started to pray for people. You know, it started off on one floor and then we were on all the floors of the hospital. Then we're going to different hospitals and we're seeing miracles. We're seeing people be healed. We're seeing people that were pronounced dead actually raise up in comas. We're seeing people that were, oh yeah, they're gonna die. All of a sudden, the next day, they're healed, and now they're leading nonprofits and ministries in, Africa somewhere. Like we're seeing the miracles that are being birthed, right? And so that's when I realized, like, oh, God was separating me to lead me in the direction of ministry. He was leading me for my calling, right? And so that was something that was happening in the midst of that storm, in the midst of all those things that were happening. And in May 2019, I got a call for my second transplant, which is what I had for, I would say I had that for, let's see, when I 2020, had that for 3 years. And in 2022, I went through rejection and it just got worse and worse as the year progressed. It went from acute to intense, and they had to remove it. And it was interesting because it was just one of those things I remember saying to God that year. I was like, Lord, I can't bear it. I can't bear to go through all this again. I don't want to go through the shortcut syndrome again. I can't. If that happens to me, I don't know what I would do. I will die, just being like that. And I mean, obviously anyone would say that, right?
Absolutely.
And it happened. My biggest fear where I went through the rejection and I had to go through the process of shortcut syndrome and, doing this treatment again. And I found myself in a very deep state of depression. I couldn't believe that this was actually happening to me. And I'll never forget something my surgeon said to me. And he's a big time father figure in my life. The entire team is my family, right? I have them on speed dial. And something that he said was, Aisha, why have you been waiting for the transplant to live life?
Oof. Ooh, 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 ooh. Your surgeon said this.
He
Ooh.
he's another chosen person.
Uh,
He said, why have you his name's Dr. Moon. He said, why have you been waiting for the transplant to live life? Live life now. The question should never be if you can do something, but how?
mm,
How can we make it happen? How can we make it happen for you? You've been waiting. And that's when I realized, wow, I would always say, when I get my transplant, I'm going to do this. When I get my transplant, I'm going to travel and visit my family in Europe. When I get my transplant, I'm going to swim. When I get my transplant, and I'm like, have I been limiting myself?
mm.
He was ministering, right? I'm like, unbelievable. And it set a flame, guys. It set a flame inside of me where I said, I'm no longer waiting. How can I make things happen?
Ugh.
And from that moment on, I just made things happen. We sat down, we brainstormed on how can I actually swim if I have a central line? Oh, I'm going to seek someone all the way out in the UK that has a nonprofit for people who are like me, right? That has a bodysuit for you to go and swim so that you can do it. And that's what I did,
Wow.
right? Figuring out how. And that's how I live my life now, right?
Wow.
Awaiting the third transplant, 20 plus surgeries later, you know? And I couldn't be more greater for now living life with intention every day because I know that it's not a coincidence that I'm alive. but it's for a given reason and purpose. So that is the reason why every day I live it with intention. Every single day
Absolutely.
when I right? So that's the popcorn test of it all.
Woof,
Um,
I wouldn't have
it's
passed.
so
I'm gonna let you know right now.
close.
If Star had went to the restroom and came back, I'd have failed. I'd have failed. And the look of disappointment
Failed
that
the
she probably
movie.
had. Like, you had one job, sir. You
You
just
had one job.
Yeah, that was kind of a long
but
popcorn
I
test,
like,
right?
can I ask
No,
this
it was
question? You know,
crucial.
Aisha, before Crohn's disease, who do you feel you were then versus who you are now?
It's a really good question. Yeah, I feel that I was someone who was a go-getter, a hustle and bustler, even before moving to New York. I was always someone who was striving to work hard. I pretty much valued myself by the works that I did. That to me is what merited success. The works, right?
Mm,
What am I do? What results am I getting by what I'm doing, right? What are the credentials here that I have? Pretty much everything that you see everyone do, right? But just to another magnitude, extreme magnitude, right? That was me. That's who I was. Never sleeping. Anyone that knew me knew that I never slept. I never rested, right? I was always the first person there, the last person to leave.
mm.
That was right.
Oh, yeah.
The first person to wake up in the morning, the last person to go to bed. That's who I was
That
before all of these. I had to
go
I
ahead.
had to in season of my life, I had to Google the definition of rest. Didn't even know what it was.
That's wild. You remind me of myself in regards to the being defined by the works that I did, being the first one there, the last one to leave, super volunteer, all those different things. But for me, and I can't say this is true for you because we're like really just getting a chance to talk. But for me, it was a value of myself thing that it was like I was always trying to prove my worthiness to everyone else and myself. Because if
Mm.
everyone else felt that I was valued, then I would also feel valued to myself.
Mm. Ding ding ding.
So
That's it.
that's what you remind me. That story, that part reminds me of that. Whew. And and now I imagine you know what it's like to get some rest. It, it,
Listen, if you don't do it, God will,
I will sit
okay?
you
Because
down like
he
one way or another, you're gonna get some rest.
'cause you don't get rest, honey. Yes, definitely, that's exactly what happened. It was
Aisha, I would love to first of all, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's so empowering, so inspiring. And I just love your spirit. I love your energy because there are people under the sound of your voice right now who may be going through their challenges but not really knowing how to navigate, how to get to the other side, how to even find hope. And so I have kind of like a two-part question. The first was like, where did you find your strength? Where did you find your hope? And the other part of that question is, and you shared this with our accountability group, is kind of the abbreviated version of the pivot. How did you pivot from the mindset before to the mindset after when the surgeon dropped that gem on you?
mm, really good question. Answer the first part is stillness.
Mm.
Stillness is where I found it. In stillness, I know you probably remember this, you will find comfort. In stillness, you will find composure, right? In stillness, you will find who you're truly meant to be. Stillness. That's where I found it. Because when you're forced to be still, that's when you are able to receive. That's when you're able to have clarity. That was the last C. In stillness, you will find comfort. In stillness, you will find composure. In stillness, you'll find clarity. And that's what happened. Because you're forced, you have no choice but to listen to God. There's a scripture that says, seek first the kingdom of God and all of his righteousness, and everything else will be added on to you. So seeking first God is building the relationship. And when you're still, you have nowhere to turn, right? It's just like when people say that expression, when you hit rock bottom, you have no choice but to go up. Well, you're there, you have no choice but to look up. You have no choice but to look at him, right? There's a scripture that says, in our weakness, in our weakness, that's where God's strength is made perfect, right? So when you're weak, you're taking away your ideas, your solutions, all of that is gone. So now that spirit can be downloaded into you to give you the clarity, to give you the composure, to give you the comfort. That's where it was. I had no choice. And it was downloaded into me. Right. So that's the answer to part one, stillness, which is very challenging in a world and society where people are constantly saying, go, go, go,
Yes.
go.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Post, 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 post.
Yes.
Hustle, 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 right?
Yes.
But it says we are in this world, but not of this world.
Correct.
That's the royalty that we have, right? So we don't have to move the way everybody else moves. And I was forced to to discover that treasure. Yeah, still. So to answer the other part with Dr. Moon, when he told me that, it honestly was instant. It was in that very moment when he said it. I believe it to be the Holy Spirit because how did I get it so like instant? It was so illuminous in the room that it even brought tears to his nursing coordinator. And she was like, Lord, that's speaking to me. Lord, I've been waiting. Because a lot of us wait for things. We think it's just like what we think we have to be in a certain level in our life in order to be something great. Oh, I need to be I need to be making, I'm sure all of you can relate. I need to be making, 200K before I can do blah, 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 blah. And it's like, where did you get this idea? You can be moving in that right now.
Yeah.
Y-
Yeah.
And so we believe the lies.
That
It
we
was like
tell
he shut
ourselves.
up in my ear. Exactly. It was like he shut down the lie that I was believing. Right? Instant. This person without a body that's been lying, spirit in my ear, it was like he shut it down, right? Instantly.
Mm.
He delivered. What I experienced was delivering. He delivered me in that moment. And
Wow.
I'm like, huh. So it was like as soon as he said that, from that moment, I was like, okay, how can I make certain things happen in my life that seem impossible? But with God, all things are possible, right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, how was I believing that I had to get to a certain point?
Yeah.
Something's not right. Hey, these are conflicting ideas right here, right? So set me free in that moment. And it was like, I went, just like Paul. He was blind, then he was able to see. And it said, at once he went to preach. At once
Yeah.
I went and I said, okay, how am I going to swim when I'm in Jamaica? Let's make this happen. Because I want to swim with dolphins. How am I going to make this happen? How am I going to travel and do this? And, how am I going to make this happen? How are these accommodations going to happen? And that's exactly what happened. I traveled so much last year and this year, like countlessly. It's unbelievable to me. I'm like, wow, I can't believe I'm traveling so much. Unreal, you know?
That's wild.
So it was instant because he gave me deliverance and set me free from a lie that I was believing about myself.
Wow. Powerful. Just, ooh, I'm like getting chills because for some, this is permission. For some, this is a reminder.
Mm.
For some, this is a moment of pause and revelation. Like, wait, what? Like, what am I waiting on to live the life that, God has given me to live? We only have one life to live. And it sounds like even though the body was weak and had its challenges, the spirit was still strong. That's because that's where your will is. It's in it's in your spirit to live no matter what this physical body is, because our spirit is really the strongest part of us.
It's who we really are.
Yes, it's the essence of who we really are.
You said so much, but there are two things that stood out for me. One was the point where Dr. Moon spoke and it made a difference right away. But I feel like at that particular point in time, there was like the cup was pretty empty at the time. So he could pour something in there and it was going to land right away because the cup, like there's not a whole lot in there. But and I said two things, but it really is three. That was one. Another was about being in this world, not of this world. And I feel like if people really understood that, they would get to the third thing a lot faster, which is the asking of how. Because if I'm not of this world, then that means that anything really is possible.
Mhm.
And if anything is possible, now I just have to ask how. And I don't even necessarily have to figure it out because if I ask how, it'll start showing up. Like the answers will reveal themselves, assuming that you're in that question of how. So thank you for
That's
that.
right.
That was huge for me.
I'm gonna add to your 3 and 4 and 5.
Go and give it to the Sapphire. Give it to me.
4 and 5. The 4 is the path to purpose. Oh, that was powerful. And 5 was the difference between separation and isolation, like making that distinction. And just going back to what you were saying, Kyle, the how and it revealing itself and just adding because it reminds me of the quote that you always share about seeing things, with the eyes. I forget how the quote goes, with the
The real
eyes
act
and
of discovery is not in finding new lands, but seeing with new eyes.
correct. There you go. Because it's like it's already there,
Yeah.
but with the new eyes is being revealed. So
Yeah.
it's not even like 'cause a lot of times we're searching, searching, searching for what we need in our lives. And God has created us and given us everything we need to live this life the way we were designed to live this life. But
Good point.
unfortunately, we are always looking outwardly for these things when everything we need and desire to be who we are called to be is inside of us. But with those new eyes, those new vision, we're able to like see it. It's like, oh, but it's always there. It's
Always been
always
there.
there. Always been there. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
love that.
It's beautiful. It's so true. He'll send you the ones to remind you who you were always truly meant to be.
I don't
Mhm.
have a microphone. I don't have it.
I want to drop it. Like
Right. Right.
just throw it out the window. How about that? Just take that mic and
Yeah.
sling it.
You know, um, part of, and I know you were raised in Flint, but you spent the last 10 years in New York City, so you've been there long enough for the city itself to like rub itself
Yeah.
on you. And there
Mhm.
is so much hustle and bustle, but there's also this level of I did it my way and it was me,
Mhm.
that is kind of like it permeates in the air of the tri-state area, I feel. And there is a support system that I feel that the city ignores. And I think it's a critical part of life because having that person to turn to and be able to say, why are you not living your life now? What you waiting for? And having someone that actually can look at you and authentically say things like that to you, I feel is like a missing link for a lot of us because we're so busy trying to do it all by ourselves. That's the
Yes.
American way, to be self-made. And
Mhm.
I'm not going to say there's no honor in it, but it's a rough road to take when you try to take that road by yourself.
Yes.
And it also makes it hard for people to say, I need help.
Yes.
And I can truly say that I see it even within my own personal circle of friends that when they ask me for help, with certain people asking for help, I know that I need to give that help because they don't ask for help. They will, like, it's probably their skin is probably crawling trying to
Okay.
ask for help. So if they get it out their mouth or out of the keyboard, spring into action because you know that they need it. They wouldn't ask if they didn't need it. And so, but I just appreciate the way you presented that having someone there or having that support system makes such a huge difference. And you really can't fly higher when you're supported.
Mm, mm.
Community is
It
key.
is.
The reason why Christ people constantly advocate for church is because of the community.
Yeah.
You're surrounded by like-minded people, right? When you're surrounded by people that are empowering, elevating, challenging,
Uh-huh.
that that's the key to molding you, shaping you, and giving you the growth and elevation.
Mhm.
The key, it's literally the key unlocking where you're trying to go,
Yeah.
who you're meant to be. It's the key. Community. Right. Wow. Community is key.
Community is the key, and that's the key.
It to
Eh,
be.
Hey,
T. You better alliterate, okay?
I would ask myself if I didn't like share this one thing. When you said empowering, I was like, yes. And then you said challenging. I'm like the mothers of the church. I'm like the mothers of the church. How are
Hey,
you?
Yeah, absolutely.
right.
Absolutely. We're all graduates of Lisa Nichols' Motivating the Masses campus. And, and this is something that Lisa always says or challenges us to think about is the question of what will happen if we gave our soul the mic? She's even taken it to Broadway. Did y'all know
I
that?
cannot wait to see
Yes.
this. I
All that.
cannot
Oh,
wait to see this.
is this like a road trip for the crew? Like this is a
You
trip
know?
that I
Field trip. Let's go, y'all.
No, that does not sound like a bad idea. We just got to
let's go
make
ahead and
some good
manifest
tickets. We got to get the tickets ahead of time because,
as soon as it comes out. As soon as it
yeah,
come out. But
yeah.
that's the question that I want to ask you, Aisha. What would happen or what happened when you gave your soul the mic?
Mm, Such a deep, depth, juicy question. Um, I feel like when I gave my soul the mic, because let's be honest, for myself, to give your soul requires vulnerability, requires transparency, right? I had to learn how to be open and vulnerable. Um, my childhood I didn't have a voice um, in my household. I didn't have a voice, right?
Yeah.
And in addition to not having a voice, I believed another lie that I had to minimize myself,
Right.
right? And so when I was delivered from those lies and when I was able to give my soul and be my true authentic self, I was able to show others that they can be who they are unapologetically, truthfully, right? Be who you are. There's a quote that I live by that I love so much by Judy Garland. She said, always be a first rate version of yourself instead of a second rate version of someone else. I'll never forget it. Always be a first rate version of yourself instead of a second rate version of you of someone else.
Wow.
There's only one Judy Garland. There's no one like her. Never heard anyone else that sounds like her, looks like her, right? And a lot of times we're trying so hard to be like someone else, and we're not looking at the unique abilities to just stand and shine and be who we uniquely are.
Mm.
And so I had to be okay with embracing that and be okay with the fact that other people may have a problem with that. Okay. Because being introduced to people pleasing as a child who minimized herself and saw that some people felt a certain way. So I dimmed myself in order to be liked. But baby, when I gave my soul the mic, I was like, I'm going to be who I am,
Yeah.
unapologetic. And if someone else has a problem with that, they're not my people. They're not my community. And that's okay. But God will lead me to the ones who will hear my voice and be a part of my tribe, right? Be the ones who need to receive that to go to the next level in their life, right? That's fine. And so when I gave my soul the mic, I was who I was unapologetically, shining, rejoicing,
Really.
vulnerable, and not being ashamed of the trial,
Yeah.
right? Because sometimes shame, which is really fear in disguise, it's another one of fear's first cousins. I like to call them first cousins to fear. You you know what they are. They look like worry.
Yes.
They look like insecurity,
Yes.
doubt,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah. They're all hanging out
Pride.
together. Yeah.
All isms and first
Yeah. They're
cousins to
all
fear.
family. They're all family. Yeah.
They're all family, right? But I know that my God said he hasn't given me the spirit of fear, but he's given me power, love, and a sound mind. It's just like, you know, sugar, spice, and everything nice. These were the ingredients concocted to create the perfect little. Well, these were the ingredients concocted to make us power, love, and a sound mind.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I'm choosing to move in all of those areas of my life unapologetic.
Mm.
Love that. Love that. Coach Sapphire Star, same question. She didn't see that coming.
I didn't. I didn't.
It's a great question.
Really good question,
Yes.
and it is something
Okay.
that being a part of Lisa Nichols' community that I am discovering and developing because I really did not know what it meant to give my soul the mic. And so when we were in Speak and Write to Make Millions, the Earth Angel exercise that we participated in, I realized that I had some limiting beliefs surrounded around my purpose and what I was called to do, even though I felt like I was delivered from things because I'm like operating in such a wave of confidence. But I realized it was compartmentalized. There were still areas of my life that was neatly tucked in the back that I was hiding behind. And so being in Speaking Right to make millions and participating in that exercise, I realized that there was shame there. That and I love when you said it's fear. I never thought about it that way. I never thought about shame as fear. And so realizing it was the shame of some of the experiences that I went through where I was like, "Well, I'll share this, but I'm not gonna share that. I'll talk about this, but I'm not gonna talk about that." But the problem with that is you don't come across authentically, and Kyle helped me also understand what that meant because 'cause I'm like, "No, I'm a real person," but "What you mean? What you mean I'm not real? Like, you tried it,
Right.
like." But what he meant was you're not being who you really are because you're not allowing yourself to fully shine. And so what I learned about when I give my soul the mic, I am being, like you said, 1000% authentically me with no shame and no fear. It doesn't matter someone's opinion because I was a people pleaser myself, grew up in a household where I had to minimize my voice as well. And so it was no fear and no shame and hiding behind that and just being authentically myself. If someone has a problem or issue with my story, it's not my problem. It's their problem. And another thing of that helping me find that is when Sean said, your deepest, darkest wounds is someone else's wings.
Ah,
And
Hmm.
that has caused my soul to soar. And I will get on that mic and I will tell my story unapologetically.
Mhm.
that is oh,
Beautiful.
delicious.
Delicious. Now, Kyle, you know it's coming. Kyle, you know it's coming. I
I
hope you was
oh,
preparing.
I was, I was preparing. That's why I wait you go second.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's what we do. Iron sharpen iron.
For me, it was when I got to speaking right last this year, I was already in a place where I was just like a sponge because I had already found out what it is to give your soul the mic. And where some people look at that as what's going to happen out there when we give our soul the mic, for me, it was what was going to happen in here. Because
Hmm.
the biggest critic, the meanest person that I knew to me was me. And
Hmm.
so where you all will talk about doesn't matter what other people say, doesn't matter, how they feel about me or if they have a problem with me. I didn't even get that far because I had a big enough problem with myself.
Mhm.
So for me, when I actually did engage in some exercises that actually involved getting to know your own soul, and that happened at a ministry retreat earlier this year, what I discovered was the things that I was concerned about regarding myself, my soul could care less about. It wasn't even a part of the conversation. And so
Mm.
in that moment, there was this freedom, like almost like these shackles that are being broken because all these things that I'm thinking about myself that perceive to be a reflection of other people's opinions about me, their opinions, I never solicited their opinions. So how could it be other people's opinions? They were my own about myself. And so once I was freed from that, now I can be who the world actually would want me to be or need me to be because I am no longer being bound by my own thoughts and emotions that were keeping me in prison.
Hmm.
Wow.
So that's what I have.
Well,
Okay.
can I say something?
Please. I
I
forget
just
why.
want to say to you something that I heard in stillness. Fear is an illusion. It reflects onto you how it feels about you.
Wow.
One more time.
Fear is an
Mhm.
fear is an illusion. it reflects onto you how it feels about you.
Mm.
So, in other words, if you find yourself afraid to go or leave, say that God, you feel from God to leave your job, right? But fear is saying, don't leave your job because you're not going to be able to, afford rent or whatever your bills are, right? But that's because fear is afraid of what you're going to accomplish on the other side of it.
Mm. Ah,
Literally using a tactic to imprison you and keep you in place,
yeah.
to shackle you. And I'm mentioning that because you said shackling and imprisoning.
Yeah.
And that whole device of fear is a tactic
Keep
to
you.
keep you in place because it's afraid of you.
Mm. Mm.
Fear is then reflects on you how it feels about you because it's afraid of you, because you're a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah,
On the other side of fear is where we need to be.
absolutely. It's funny that you mentioned about fear being that because I've always felt that, I shouldn't say always, but recently I felt that doubt is that cousin that bypasses all the audible voices that you'll hear and whispers
Mhm.
in your subconscious, like, you really ain't good enough to do that.
Mhm.
And that's what doubt does. And you are just sharing that doubt and fear, they are bosom buddies. They love
Oh,
to
yeah.
hang out with each other, see what
Yep.
type of chaos they can cause.
Mhm.
Yeah. Woo!
Yeah.
I, I don't know about you, Sapphire. Sunday dinner? Sunday dinner. Yeah?
Sunday dinner
Sunday
at
dinner? Yeah.
3 p.m.
Yeah.
on time,
Yeah.
like right after church.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is like you have fed our soul. We are satiated. We are uplifted. We're transformed. Like all the things. Like I say, I truly
Like,
appreciate
well,
you, and I love that I am, a part of your journey, and I get to witness your journey and your triumphs
Yeah.
in life. And like, I'm truly honored that God saw it fit that we cross paths. Because without Lisa's Nichols program, me, motivating the masses, who knows, you know, if we would have ever crossed
The
paths. So I'm just
likelihood of this show happening, okay, is very slim in my opinion, if it wasn't for Lisa.
And just think, I don't know what you guys, I know okay. I don't know what you guys' decision-making process was to decide to invest in yourself to be a part of her program. For me, it was a process, and I had to say, "Man, should I do this? Do I have the money to do it?" Like I went through some steps in my
Yeah.
brain, but even before even joining or meeting you guys, it
Yeah.
was like, no, this is my year of yes. This is my year of personal development.
Yeah.
And just imagine if I would have said no to me, if I would have let fear and doubt or uncertainty cause me to not make a decision to invest in myself, we would not be here today. So I'm curious, like, what was your process and your thought process to even decide to
wow.
join the program?
Can I go next? Can I go right now? Can I go now?
Please.
Okay. Because it's interesting that you say that because it wasn't very hard for me. And the reason why it wasn't hard for me is because the first time I saw Lisa live and in person, I didn't even know who she was, but I knew that there was something that she had in the room that that was this magical piece that I had never seen in a speaker before. But then the second time I saw her live, she looked through me while she was delivering her talk.
Mm.
And it was almost like there was this communication called where you belong is on this campus. Like whatever's next for you, it will begin at this campus. And it was like, I don't want to say it was telepathically communicated, but there was something in that locking of eyes during her talk that let me know that that was where I needed to be and that it was safe there. And not only was it safe, there was possibility there, and there was whatever was next for me was gonna be on that campus. And,
Mm.
like, if I were to show you the things that I've done since speaking right, including this podcast, it's it's confirmed that that was where I
Yeah.
belong.
Yeah. Amen.
Beautiful.
Yes. What about you, Aisha?
It was pretty much similar to yours, but it is actually is a combo of both of yours where I was questioning, right? I used to have a tendency to overthink. I'm like, okay, so am I going to be able to afford it? All of these things, right? However, I remembered what the word of the year was that God had told myself, my partner, 2024, the year of more.
Mm.
And so I said, oh, well, if this is the year of more, then I have to make a decision to invest in myself.
Mm.
Mm,
That's just what God wants. If
mhm.
this is more, then that means that investment, and we know, Sapphire, right?
Yep.
Investment gives you gain. It's what gives you more. So I said, okay, this is where I need to be. And I had, you know, I hadn't gone to see Lisa live, but I was kind of like in her circle, but those people that they're not quite in a circle, but they're kind of like around observing.
That's
That was me.
that was me too. That was me too. Like, okay, what's
Uh-huh.
going on over here?
I would receive the emails. I
Yep.
hopped on one of the things maybe in the past,
Mhm.
and I took all these notes. I was like, "Oh, this woman is something, okay?" But not actually saying, "You know what? No, I'm going to make this investment for myself."
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm so grateful that I did because I met you amazing, supreme people.
Really.
And not only that, but I love when people give you the shock and awe when you have an expectation and you leave with more than what you bargained
Yes.
for. I love that.
Yes.
And I feel like that happened at that conference.
Yeah.
Woof.
Shock and awe
Honey,
is an understatement for when I walked in that
listen,
door.
I couldn't even really the mind couldn't even really fathom. Like, I had just enough wherewithal to be like, "Okay, this is for me." And like you said, your word for 2024 was more. Mine was make it happen. But
Mm,
I've gotten a return on my investment tenfold.
yeah.
hmm,
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
because I went in thinking the business of speaking, thinking,
Mhm.
well, who knew my whole life was gonna be transformed? I'm like, "Wait
minute,
a minute."
girl, same. I was like, okay, I'm gonna learn the business of
You're
I'm gonna
right.
leave with my revenues. I went in there like, whoa, I didn't realize that she was in the true business of transformation.
Me
Mm,
either.
I was delivered in there.
yeah.
Like people were experiencing deliverance.
Yeah.
Wrong and
Literally.
Literally,
Literally.
I've never cried so much at a conference before in my life.
same. I was like, unbelievable.
It
Deliverance.
I can't even
You
say enough about it. I mean, Star, you and I go back to all these times where we met each other for the first time and they had to kick us out of the doggone
The
not the
the
conference room,
gala.
the gala. They had to kick us out because we didn't know how to leave. They're like, "Y'all gotta go."
You would
I,
think we knew each other for years
Yeah,
and years, and definitely kindred spirits.
I
yeah.
love that.
Yeah,
But even then, I
Love
didn't
that.
know that this is where we would land, though.
me either.
I mean, is this our ninth or
This is the 11th.
our 11th podcast episode?
Wow.
Never even, I remember just calling up and saying, "Hey, we need to do a podcast together."
And you did it.
And here we are.
And we made it happen.
Mm.
Here we are.
Yeah.
and we're able to connect with our friends, speaker friends
Yeah.
that we've met during that journey, and
Yeah.
just it's amazing what's happening. It's and I know is major, like the power that we all have collectively, like you said, doing things alone. Like you can go, and that's my quote. You shared your quote, Aisha, already. My quote is, we can go fast alone, but we can go much further together. Is
Beautiful.
collaboration over competition.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love that.
really. You want to throw your quote in there, Kyle?
Yeah. So I know that you all are assuming that I have a quote. So I have to
You
read my
first.
I have to read my quote because that's just how much it resonates with me. So
Let's go.
this is gonna be one. It's a little
Mm.
longer, and you all should be very familiar with this. But it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who actually is in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, who at worst, if he fails, least fails while daring greatly. So that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
Ooh, mm,
I know.
delicious.
That's by Theodore
Theodore
Roosevelt?
Roosevelt.
Mm,
Delicious. Oh,
beau
I've been waiting for
so
weeks to get
good.
that one out.
Please send that to me. You know what?
Yes.
We're gonna put that in the show notes for everyone, and we're at the part of the Soul Shift Session podcast where we do the rapid fire question round with our special guest. Now, Aisha is on point because she's already given us questions one and two. Like she's already answered the questions, and I'm here for it. The first question about giving your soul the mic. And I would like to ask the listeners to answer the questions in the comment section. What would happen if you gave your soul the mic? And then the second question is the quote you gave us, Julie Garland. I love that one. That is going. I collect quotes, so that is going in my collection. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
as well as Coach Kyle's quote going in my collection. And so the third question I'm going to ask you is, if you did a soul search, what's one lesson you learned that transformed your life?
Mm, yeah, I would say that you are your only limit. You are your only limit. And I had that realization because I had been limiting myself, you know, and it goes back to how the question should never be if, but how, and that all things are possible. And let's be real. A lot of times it's so easy for people, right, on the outside of you. It's so easy to say, if you're observing that situation, oh, well, all they had to do was
Mhm.
just jump stick, or all they had to do was just, make some calls to make that happen. But when you're actually inside of that being and you're going through whatever mental battles, right? It's challenging. It's not easy, right? It takes mental strength. It takes a divine power to overcome, to pivot, right? Sometimes it's hard to see, right? From whatever perspective you're seeing, right? You believe that perception and it becomes your reality, right? And so, yes, You are your only limit.
Mm.
I love it. I love it. I don't even know what else to say, right? I don't
There's
know.
really nothing. Yeah, there's the end, right?
Cut the camera. Just cut it off.
Like,
That's so
Aisha,
much. I
thank
love
you
it.
so much. And here's the reason. Here's what's behind my thank you that is beyond the typical thank yous. Part of what we do here is about transforming the mind, right? So that you can transform your life. But there's this other thing that I believe that Sapphire and I go through, which is when we are experiencing life when we're not on camera, we still have to live the life that we say we want our audience to live. And there are times where we experience certain challenges, and it's like, I cannot stay in a particular place for too long because I have to be held accountable to
Mm.
my co host and I have to be accountable to my audience. And so because I want to be that authentic version of myself, you know, I have no problem saying where my mind is at the time. And I have no problem saying what my thoughts are. But at the same time, I also recognize that if they are in the negative side, I can't stay there. I can't afford to stay there because Tuesday is coming.
when
Pay me.
It's coming. And so
it's coming.
when you share what you share, it's just another tool that I can use to like rely on when things get a little challenging. You know, I can start I ask how. But if I forget to ask how, I might remember your face and then remember, oh, that's right. I'm supposed to be asking how can I do this? Not can I do this, but how can I do this?
Mm.
So thank you for that.
Thank you. You for this beautiful platform. Thank
Yeah.
you for the lives we change and heal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Soul Shift Session Podcast. Please make sure that you like, comment, and share because, sharing is caring. And if you know someone who would love to have their soul shifted, please drop this gem on them. Aeisha, where can the people find you?
Yes, y'all. I am on the social media.
I'm on
Like-
social
On the social media.
I'm pushing myself, right? The social media.
That's social
Right?
media. I love that. I say that too.
It's at Aeisha Reese. That's at AEI like the vowels, SHAREESE like the candy, no spaces. And you can also check out my website. It is www.aishareese.com to know about my story and things that are happening, my artist work. And also you can follow the ministry at Miracle Work Ministries on Instagram as well.
Awesome.
I love that. Do you have any events coming up you would like to share with the audience? Any upcoming events?
Well, working on one behind the scenes right now. It's not a complete solid deal, but it's something that's working, and hopefully it'll be a collaboration with another transplant person. She's a heart transplant patient, so that might be something that's in the works. But I also have a community group with the ministry, Miracle Work Ministries. There's a Bible study that I have every Wednesday via Zoom at 6:30. And yes, all about transformation and people moving and gifting that God has called them to move in.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. You guys make sure you connect with this beautiful, beautiful soul.
Oh, that was awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.